Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Moments away, a.k.a. the Grumpy Gardener. Steve Binder will be with us. But first, you want to have your plants stay healthy and happy all growing season and indoors over winter. If you're doing that, Simple Grow is the answer to that question.
Are you worried about your plant growth? Provide your plants with what they need to grow to their potential. Simple Grow offers 100% organic worm castings at simplegrow.com. Unlike other worm casting products, when you order from Simple Grow, you are getting 100% worm castings, not filler plus castings. You promote your ideal soil structure and aeration with Simple Grow all-natural odor-free worm castings. There's only one ingredient, worm castings. No chemical or additives will seep into your food, and it doesn't smell like other fertilizers. For indoor or outdoor use, you can buy it by the bag, bundle, ton, or truckload. Find all the information about Simple Grow 100% worm castings and order at simplegrow.com.
People will also start their seeds in 100% worm castings as well. So, Holly, let's go to the hotline, Proclamation Hotline, brought to you by Proclamation Goods, and bring in our guest for this week.
Steve Binder is an award-winning author, editor, columnist, and speaker with 38 years experience as a garden editor, senior writer, and editor-at-large for Southern Living magazine. Known as the Grumpy Gardener, he shares his horticultural wisdom with Southerners and garden enthusiasts across the country. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Well, we thank you for taking time and sharing some of your knowledge and information, not only with Holly and myself, but all of our listeners. And I will start with this. You do not care for Epsom salt vinegar dish soap safe weed killer methods. Why is this? Is it not a safe method to use for killing weeds?
It's not that it's not safe. It's just not very effective. It's one of these old wives' tales. You see it repeated again and again. If you go on social media, everybody has the same formula. And they really don't look into what's in this formula for weed killer. Like, if you want to kill weeds, you want to kill them dead, right? You don't want to have them coming up in another 10 days.
Right.
Well, let's look at what's in this weed killer. First thing is Epsom salt. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, which is a fertilizer for plants. It doesn't kill them. So if you want to make your weeds grow even better, put some Epsom salts on them. Dish soap just helps whatever you spray on weeds stick to it, and it kind of dries out the foliage. And then the only thing in here that really has an adverse effect on plants is vinegar because it's so acidic. But the problem is it only works on annual weeds. Those are things, little grassy weeds and stuff that grow in cracks in the driveway and in your front walk. And so what happens is, you pour that on there and you see them all wilted the next day and you think, oh, well, I've done a great job. But if it's anything that is perennial, that has any kind of a decent root system, it will die down, and in about 10 days it'll come right back up. So it's just a really dopey thing to do. It just is not effective.
Okay, great. You encourage people to fill in the bare areas of their lawn with sod versus seed. My sister's trying to grow grass in some bare areas right now with seed. She's having pretty good success. But why would it be a better remedy to use sod, and any other tips around that?
Okay. Well, it really depends on what kind of, where you live and what kind of grass you have. If you live in a cool weather, well, I should say, an area that has cold winters, you would be planting a cool weather grass. It would be like bluegrass or fescue. For those, it's fine. You can get bluegrass seed and you can get fescue seed, and you can sow it down there and water it and fill in the bare areas. That's just fine. But if you happen to be in a warm weather area like I do, those grasses don't grow here. And what we have is things like zoysia grass and St. Augustine grass. And those things are impossible to grow from seed. the seed just doesn't come up. So if you've got a small area of grass, rather than just wait around forever for the grass that you have to spread in and fill in that bare spot, just go out and get yourself a piece of sod and stick it in the ground, water it, and be done with it.
Good advice there. Now, I'll ask you for more advice, Steve. It's summer now, but soon fall is going to be coming to most of the country. What are some gardening mistakes to avoid as we go out and prepare or begin to establish our fall gardens?
Okay. A couple of biggies. One is pruning. If you have anything in your yard, a tree, a shrub, that blooms in the spring, do not prune it in the fall, because lots of those plants have already set their flower buds in the fall. And if you go out and you prune them, and it doesn't matter, it could be azaleas, it could be lilacs, it could be forsythia. If you prune them in the fall, you're going to get no flowers in the spring. Second thing is fertilizer. About the only thing that you want to put fertilizer on in the fall would be a cool weather grass like bluegrass or fescue. That's a really important time for them because they grow actively in cooler weather. But for for trees and shrubs, it's a really bad time because you don't want to encourage a lot of new growth that's not going to harden off in time for winter. Because if it doesn't harden off in time for winter, you get a freeze, you get a frost, all that stuff dies. So really the main times for fertilizing, except for lawns, would be spring and summer.
Okay, great. So we are talking with Steve Bender, an award-winning author, editor, columnist, and speaker. So since the pandemic, it seems like everyone is really into houseplants, and that continues to become more of a thing. Many of us fail at keeping them alive. I know, myself included. Is there any reason where we may not be, we may be successful gardeners out in the backyard, but in the houseplant situation, maybe not so much? And you recommend maybe some houseplants to avoid and some tried and true favorites.
Okay. Plants to avoid. You don't want to try and grow something indoors that really only grows outdoors. A great example of this, I was in one of the big box stores a couple of days ago, and I saw they had this whole display of Venus flytraps. And everybody loves the idea of Venus flytraps. They have these traps that when a fly or a bug goes and lands on it, it closes with its teeth and digests the insect and everything. Those things are really hard to grow even outdoors. They require a very special environment. They need full sun. They need boggy soil that always stays moist, that's absolutely devoid of nutrients. And so, does that sound like any place that you have in your house? I will guarantee you, if you bring home a Venus flytrap, put it in a pot in your house, probably you've got expected lifespan, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. People always do the wrong thing, so forget the Venus flytraps. Another plant, just as an example of what I said before about outdoor plants, trying them indoors, would be people up north. Down here where I live in Alabama, one of our favorite plants is a gardenia because it has these incredibly fragrant, really pretty white flowers in the summer. And it's a great plant for outside, but it hates the indoors. It doesn't like the dry air indoors. It's hard to give it enough light. And indoors, it will attract every horrible insect pest that you can ever imagine. Aphids, mealy bugs, white flies, scales. So these are the kind of plants that I call not annuals, I call them momentarily. Because it's just moments before the time you bring them inside to the time you're throwing them out. Now, as far as good plants to have in your house, among my favorites are peace lily. I think it's a wonderful plant. Takes low light, nice flowers, grows really well inside. Then there's the old favorite, the snake plant or mother lost tongue, which again takes low light, low humidity, does great, it's hard to kill. And a third one I would mention would be Chinese evergreen, which is aglaonema, and again, low light, low humidity, doesn't take very much care, hard to kill.
Good list of do's and don'ts there on what to bring in and or what to have in your house and what not to. We have to ask you, Steve, why are you known as the Grumpy Gardener?
Because when people ask me questions, I tell them the truth. And like some people will ask me things that gets me, a little grumpy. Like I had this one person who she emailed me this question. And she says, "Oh, I was just given this terrarium with plants in it as a gift. How do I keep all the plants from outgrowing the terrarium?" So I responded, "Well, what plants are in the terrarium?" And she says, "Well, I don't know." I mean, that's like going to the emergency room, right?
Right.
And the guy comes up and he says, "Okay, what's wrong with you?" Well, I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling out of sorts. Well, do you have a fever? No, not really. Do you have a rash? Well, I haven't looked. Is your sore throat? No, I don't think so. So, you gotta help me out here. I mean, it's a two-way street.
Right.
I try to give you the right answer, but you gotta handle it on your end. I don't like to make up answers, so I really need a teeniest bit of information.
I'm sure you've gotten.
Before I can answer your question.
I'm sure you've gotten this one. I think my plants are dying. What do you think's wrong with them?
That they're dying.
Yeah.
I think they're really dying, but the simple answer to all of that, is plastic flowers.
Yeah.
Just get plastic flowers. They're cheap. They last forever. You never have to water them. It doesn't matter what kind of light they have. You never have to miss them for humidity. Just get plastic flowers.
Yeah, that would be the simplest, and if you've got problems, that would probably be the answer. Well, Steve, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered us and the knowledge you've given not only Holly and myself, but all of our listeners. How can people find out about you, find your column, find your books? How can we do that?
Well, let me see. You could contact the CIA, the FBI, the KGB for really detailed files. But the simplest way is if you go on Facebook and just search for The Grumpy Gardener, you'll see I have a Grumpy Gardener Facebook page in which anybody, anywhere can post a question, and I will answer it with 110% guaranteed accuracy or your money back. There's another, you can look in Southern Living magazine every month, and I have my Grumpy Gardener feature in there. Or again, I answer just a lot of questions on a lot of different subjects. Or if you go to Amazon, you can find my Grumpy Gardener book, the perfect gift for every occasion.
Well, Steve, we thank you for the time you've offered us and the knowledge you've shared with us. It's meant a lot. Thank you very much for that.
Well, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And
for more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.